So there are a few different ways that you can clean your stamps. The first method is using baby wipes. And this is the way that I used to clean my stamps for a long time, until I changed recently to something else, which I'll show you after. So the baby wipes that I like are the Curash fragrance free, and they're also alcohol free. And I just used to get the little travel packs because they fit nicely in my desk drawer. So you stamp your stamp, and then you just use a baby wipe to wipe that off, and it comes off pretty easily. And then you can keep using that same baby wipe a number of times, maybe until it gets a little bit dirty, and then you can go and give it a rinse under the tap, and you can keep using it. But the reason that I changed from baby wipes was mostly because of the waste of the actual baby wipes, and what I use now is a damp chamois to clean my stamps. So you can get chamois from car shops such as Super Cheap Auto. They do range in price, so you get quite expensive ones and then you get the cheap ones, and this is just a cheap one. I think it costs $5 for this, and the length of this chamois is 44 by 44 centimeters, and the chamois comes in one great big sheet, and I have cut bits off that, as you can see, and I tend to just cut smallish squares around about this kind of size. So I cut that off, and then I just pop the rest in my container and pop the lid on, and that's there's more for me to use down the track. When you first take the chamois out of the container, it can have a bit of a funny smell, but if you rinse that under the tap, that smell will go. So you want to rinse it and get it damp. So I've squeezed out most of the water and it's just damp now. I'm just going to do my S stamp again. And you simply use the chamois to just wipe that ink off. You do get a bit of a squeaky sound, which might annoy some people, or sort of, they might not like it, like nails on the blackboard. So if that's you, you could always use the baby wipes. But I find that it works really, really well and does a good job at getting the ink off as well. After time, you will find that the chamois gets quite dirty, but that doesn't affect the performance of the chamois. It will still get the ink off, and it won't transfer ink from the chamois onto a new stamp. So when you've done your stamping and you've finished with your chamois, you just leave it to dry, and it will go hard like this one. And you can see that this one's been used a bit more, and it's got a bit more dirty, and they will get a lot more dirty than that if you're doing a lot of stamping and lots of cleaning. But that's okay. As I said, it doesn't affect how they work. So when you want to come to use the chamois again, you just need to sort of rehydrate it under running water, squeeze out the excess water, and just have it damp. And then this can last you for many, many uses before you need to cut a new bit. In one of my other videos, I've talked about how if you're using the stamps for a group activity, you don't need to wash the stamp each time it's been used. So if you're doing a stamping activity using the letter stamps, then the kids use them, and then they just put it back, and then somebody else uses the S, and then they put it back, and that continues until you've finished your activity. If the kids are using the incorrect method and they're pressing really hard, you're going to start to get ink collecting around the block like this. If that happens, then that will need to be wiped off, and as the activity is taking place, you might want to give it an occasional wipe if it's really, really dirty. And at the end of your activity, you're going to need to give the stamps a good clean in the sink. So I'm just going to wipe that off there for now. But as I said, if your stamps are really inky and also your blocks, then you want to take them off the block, take them to your sink and give them a good wash in some warm soapy water. If you're using some really small stamps, you just want to be careful that you don't accidentally lose those down the plug hole. And when they've had a good wash in the sink, just leave them on a piece of paper towel with the image side up or down. It probably doesn't really matter too much, but you just want to leave them to air dry. And when they're completely dry, you can pop them back on your stamp set and put your backing sheet on, and they're all ready for next time. You'll probably find that your blocks will actually get more dirty than the stamps, and the ink on the blocks tends to sort of stay there and is harder to wash off than it is from the stamps. So if you have a look here, you can see that this block has got some blue ink staining on it. It's not too bad, but there's a little bit there. If you have a look at this block here, it's got a lot of black staining on it. So that's really due for a good clean. So warm soapy water won't work. What you need to do is get something a bit stronger. What I find is this product, some of you may be familiar with. It's the Dyson pre-wash stain remover from Aldi. It costs, I think, less than $2 for the bottle. And if you just get a bit of paper towel and you spray that on the paper towel, it will take that ink off the block really, really nicely. And this stain remover from Aldi is really useful for, well, stains, of course, on clothes, and a whole lot of other stuff too, apparently. But it does work pretty well on these blocks. So that's just a quick little clean. I could clean that a bit more, but you can see that the ink has really come off there pretty well. Sometimes you'll find that when the stamps have had lots of use over a period of time, they'll start to pick up dust and dirt and fibres on the flat side that sticks to the blocks. And sometimes they will kind of lose their sticky because they've got that build up of dust and fibres and stuff like that. So if that happens and you're having trouble with the stamps staying on the blocks, you can bring them back to life simply by rinsing them in some warm soapy water, and that will get that build up of dust and fibres and lint and stuff off the backs, and they will cling to your blocks like new again. So that's a really simple way to bring them back to life if you find that they're not clinging or sticking to the blocks as well as they should. And you can prevent that happening by making sure that you always put your stamps back in their packet with the rest of their set, and just keeping the dust and dirt and stuff away from them.